and if you're not looking in the mirror and you're not evaluating not only what's going on in the industry, the marketplace, and relevant to talent, your industry, but if you're not looking to reinvent yourself, you're going to get passed up by others, and it's going to get stale as well. It's, as you said earlier, right? It's not going to stay enjoyable. It's not going to be exciting if you don't continue to evolve.
People will definitely slide. And I'm doing a lot of speaking right now on this. I said, there's, we have the great resignation, right? And there's no doubt that that's a real thing. And, the changing of, COVID, what it did to the workplace and hybrid and remote and all of those things. I mean, we're all challenged by that. But
Right.
there's this whole other contingency of people who are between 45 and 55 who are worn out, have only been solving problems, and they're trying to figure out, how do I get out of this professional midlife crisis and love what I do again? And my whole thing is, you don't have to leave your current employment to make that happen, but you do have to figure out, how do you reinvent yourself? And that by reinventing yourself, that's a value to your employer. Because if you can
Mm-hmm.
tell why that makes sense for your employer and that's a really good thing, you can put together a business case for why you doing something different makes sense for them. It's a win-win for everybody all the way around.
There's a chapter in the book. So there's a couple different things that I thought about as you just discussed that. First of all, in terms of what that looked like, and you don't have to leave your employer. One of the examples you used was something, and I don't remember specifically what it was in your business, where somebody came, had an idea, and you were like, okay, well, go ahead and execute on that, put something together, let's see what that looks like. And they did that, which reinvigorated them, brought benefit to your business. And somebody else on your team was like, well, why do they get to do that?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So that, and maybe you want to expound on that. But the other piece about you talking about that, I always talk about reactivity versus proactivity.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I try to live my life in a proactive manner. I want our business to all be based on proactivity. What are your principles? What do you stand for? Then based on that, you put in your processes, your goals, and then you live according to those, right? It doesn't matter that day how you feel, or if somebody hurt your feelings, right? It's reactionary. And I thought, in terms of that chapter, and what was so smart about sort of the process as you walk through it, is because the positive way of what you're describing and how people determine what that is it's all proactivity. Because a lot of those aspects of why people are unhappy, they got passed up for that promotion, or they're not getting to do this, or their job has turned into, the red tape, and they're not as happy. A lot of that based on feelings, hurt feelings, not being happy, is more reactionary versus you sharing and showing, hey, take that, put that to the side, focus on what you want to do, and be proactive about whether that's going to your employer and saying, hey, how do we rediscover what I could do to bring additional value, or maybe that's going to start your own business, or whatever that is, but it's all proactivity.
Well, and all of those options are in the book. Everything from being an entrepreneur to staying within your organization, or going out. The reality is, when you get to be the age that's really relevant, when people start to have this thought about, I want to reinvent myself, is you make the most money in the things you know the most, right? So if you've been in an industry for a long time, if you go to an industry where you're not as knowledgeable, it's hard for them to compensate you in the way that you've been compensated. But every company has issues, challenges, and problems, and they have gaps in their business that they might not even see. You have all this knowledge, you've been in the business. So there's this whole reflection piece of, are there gaps in the business that you could come up with something? I'll give you an example. I had a friend that she worked for a paper company in printing, and they had this sidebar part of their business where they had been doing some encapsulizing of, for example, what goes into a Tide Pod, the fragrance, that kind of stuff. So they were trying to reinvent themselves, because paper, I mean, we live in Paper Valley, and that industry was really taking a hit. Old school, everything's going digitized, right? So they were starting to, and they were like, we're just going to let it go. So she actually puts together a business plan for this business. She becomes the leader of the business, and they're like, fine, you try it. We've already decided that it is not going to work. You try it. Not only did she make it work, They got bought out. They just sold. She became one of the largest shareholders. They just sold that company for $900 million.
Wow.
I think that was gutsy of her to say, "I'll try it."
Hear me, won't you speak to me when I open up? And I forward my thoughts to you, but sometimes I'd say you're thinking too much, and I don't wanna